guys. Welcome to another episode of Joy of Performing Podcast. I'm your host, Gaurav Sabharwal, founder and CEO of JOP Inc. We have my dear friend and my mentor, somebody I really look up to, Arvind Murwaha. He's been involved with my previous businesses as well. Arvind is a fantastic coach, business mentor. He's been coaching and giving business transformation consulting work to a lot of enterprise, mid-size, small startups in his past. I will let you, Arvind, to introduce yourself. I think you'll do a much better job and talk a little about your experience as well for our audience to know about you a little. Thank you.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thank you very much. Yeah, I started my career on the business side of things. I was in the operations, supply distribution, and then into sales. I was a sales head. When I got a chance to get trained as a facilitator in Cape Town, South Africa. And for the next, so that was the first 10 years. And the next 25 years, I have been heading L&D or HR somewhere or the other in companies like Max India, IBM Dux, Reliance Communication, Suzlon Energy, and others. It's been an exciting journey. And eventually where I figured out is that, it's a cycle. It's a sort of a circular piece where you build people and they build the business. And sometimes you help them build the business and that automatically builds the people. So that's been the experience and hence consequently have done a lot of work in the last decade or so in the consulting area on business consulting and leadership development and capability building. So that's been my journey, 35 years. It's been exciting, very interesting. Yeah.
Very beautifully said, Arvind. I love the way you describe that circle, right? You build the people, they build the business. And sometimes actually it's the other way around. Sometimes you have to hustle as a founder, build that business up to a certain level for you to then build people and who then build the business. So I think it's interesting way you put it. And I'm sure a lot of founders there or executives there would understand and kind of relate to what you're saying. So Arvind, today you are the CEO and heading Cresco Consulting. Would love to understand that why did you take that jump, from being in the corporate world to the entrepreneurship that you are, the journey that you are on today? And why did you decide to get onto this journey with Cresco? So would love to get your inputs on that.
Yeah, Gaurav, all across, I have been an entrepreneur by nature. So all the assignments that I took up, even in corporate, were assignments where I was given a blank page and said, okay, build up whatever you've got to build up. And so that entrepreneurial trait has been there for a long time with me. And and yes, there was also this whole thought process of giving back to the industry that you have learned, you have created some stuff. So how can we give back to the industry in a better way? And so some of our CXOs, we got together and we also realized that, in India specifically, the quality of consulting, the quality of leadership development was not that high. And hence, we said, how can we add to that quality, add to that ability to create a difference in the people and in the business? So that's with that context, we started this whole piece of Cresco. Our mission at Cresco has been enabling results and building better lives. So that's
Very
what
good.
we do. That's what
Very
we do.
good.
And from enabling results perspective, what we do is we help businesses uh, build themselves up, grow the business. A business is a good business only when it grows, and so we help businesses grow. Uh, for helping businesses grow, one has to get into the entire part about mapping the business requirements, mapping the gaps which a business might need, and then helping the business set up a vision, set up a culture, uh, set up their strategic priorities, which they may want to work on, and then set up some exciting goals. So that's what we do, and we do get into what we love to call a participatory strategic planning for businesses. So that's how we enable the results for businesses. And it's not just the strategic planning; we also get into execution of the strategic plan. So that's what we enable for businesses. On the leadership development side, we believe in first mapping the gaps in the culture, the gaps in the leadership mindset, and then the gaps in the capability leaders might have vis-a-vis the business need. And one thing we realize is that the business scenario changes very fast. People can't change that fast. So one has to help people change, adapt to the change and learn new things. And so we have a whole dictionary of our leadership competencies relevant to the new normal. And basis that we identify the gaps and then we take people through the leadership development.
Great.
Yeah.
No, that's great, Arvind, and very insightful to understand the structure and the way you do it, the process that you follow. I want to take a clue on from what you said and go back to that framework or structure a little, right? I mean, we all entrepreneurs or business leaders at some point of time have one way or one structure to follow for us to kind of grow our business and teams. And there is a framework called OKR, Objective Key Results. I'm sure you would have heard of it, and you've always. I know that you work with it and work with it with JOP as well. You are one of our consultants who kind of go and implement that in organizations as well. I would love to get your insight on that framework, Objective Key Results, and why do you think it's relevant and how do you think it really helps the business if you can spend a couple of minutes on that?
So let's take it from a larger macro perspective and then talk about it. You see, any business, if you look at whether it's a small business where a founder has created something and the promoter is wanting to take it forward, or where it's a large enterprise where there's a board which is expecting the management team to deliver some results. At the end of it, they all have a business idea in their mind and they want to create value through that idea. And when that happens, each one of the businesses do have their own strategic moves, strategic plans, which they want to create. Of course, a lot of times they need help in even thinking about the strategic moves. But the main point of, if I may say, truth or point of failure comes when the rubber hits the track. And that is when you start executing the plans. So you may have a fantastic idea, fantastic strategy, but when you're trying to execute that, that is where it starts failing. In my experience, whether we have worked with some large organizations and we tried the OKR approach there, and with startups, we have, of course, implemented OKRs many places. OKR is a very structured and a very efficient way of executing. And not just executing, it is about executing fast and it's about executing correctly. And that's what the benefit of an OKR approach is. Of course, one has to implement the OKRs in the right way, and that is where the whole success lies.
Very well. So my follow-up question would then be, Arvind, that if you're going into a small, medium businesses versus a large corporate, right, and trying to enable organizations for their growth and maybe let's say implement a framework like OKR, what are the three things that one has to be careful looking at the size of the organization, and what are those three getaways that the audience can take if they want to get into a framework like this? They should be careful about and implement, as they go along.
So I think first of all, the thing is whether it's a small enterprise, a startup, or a medium enterprise, or a large organization, the top level has to be committed to implementing OKRs.
Very
So the
well.
first one has to build a commitment at the top level. And if just in case there is some slippage there, then first effort has to be made to look at the top level getting aligned. And that's why for larger enterprises, I use the term participatory strategic planning. The top level has to participate and get aligned and get committed to implementing OKRs. If they don't do that, it doesn't work. In a startup, if the founder or the promoter is not committed to implementing OKRs, it doesn't work. So whatever needs to be done in terms of sharing information, building knowledge, getting case studies, they need to do that to get that commitment in place. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing that is required is one should understand that OKRs are not just a tool that you use for goal setting. OKRs is about changing the way the organization works. It's a
Hmm.
cultural change. It's a major change in the way it works. And hence, when you are
Hmm.
implementing OKRs, treat it as an organization change process. It's a change
Hmm.
management process which has to be done. And that requires a lot of sensitization, a lot of alignment, a lot of understanding to be created in the teams on why we are doing it and how we are going to go about it, how it is
Sure.
going to impact. So that is needs to be done. And the
Hmm.
third piece, which is essential if you look at in implementing OKRs, is you have to have a system or a platform through which you can track the progress of the OKRs. You know,
Hmm.
simply setting it in Excel sheets does not work, right? Writing down in diaries does not work. It needs a very robust platform that can track the progress, provide feedback, and give an overview of exactly what is happening at the ground level and how is it impacting the business at the top level.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, who knows better than us? We have created a whole business around the third point. So I agree with you 100%. Otherwise, you kind of lose momentum and you start
Sure.
thinking whether the framework is worth it or not. But in order for you to do the work, you got to implement it well. So totally agree with that. Um, so I think, Arvind, if there is anything else you would like to share from your experience of 35 years that you have worked, and you've worked with some great organizations, right from IBM Daksh to Tata to Brookshield. So does any one or two instance come to your mind that you want to share with your audience, which is going to be useful for them to understand how they enable growth in their organization and what kind of steps should they follow?
So let me take the example of at the beginning of this financial year itself, when we were called in to help an organization which is the biggest private player in the data center industry. It's a Japanese company who
Hmm.
have an Indian operation, and they're they're already an established player. But like any business, they also had their dreams of going 2x or a 3x in the year, and
Hmm.
they were struggling with what kind of strategy and plan should we do. And
Hmm.
this division, this whole business, they had appointed a new CEO. He came in from within the group, but for the India business, he was a new person, and he came from Singapore. And in the existing company, there were stalwarts in each of the functions, and they had their own professional ability, and if I may say so, the right kind of not the right, but a big kind of a big ability and big egos. So to
Hmm.
get the team together and then be able to quickly create a strategy, was they were struggling with that. So that's when they
Correct.
consulted with us, and they brought us in, and we ran a strategic planning workshop for them, and in which we actually started with a vision, mission, and then we built up the entire strategic priorities. We looked at the reality, looked at the problems they are facing, and solutioning of
Hmm.
those problems. Uh, like I said earlier, we help them not only do the strategic planning, but we help them create the execution plans on
Got
how
it.
they're going to execute that strategy. Such
Right.
experiences have also highlighted that one needs to have a very sharp focus when you say execution. A lot of people
Hmm.
create an annual sales plan or an annual business plan, and
Right.
one should create that, but the action plan should have a sharp focus on the next 90 days. If that happens, that works beautifully well, and it
Yeah, we
did
call
work
it a
for them.
spotlight approach versus a floodlight approach, right? I mean, you need to
Absolutely.
put the spotlight so that you can really focus on those 90 days, figure out, and then
Absolutely.
the other quarters kind of follow from there. Agreed. Agreed. 100%.
So that
Good.
very well. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I was saying any other example that you may want to cite or that comes to your mind.
Uh, Another example was when we worked with Brookfield. This was almost the year the COVID set in, and
Okay.
they one of their business units in India uh, on the infrastructure side was facing a different challenge, that there was a quick turnaround of business required, and there was
Hmm.
a very high level of disconnect at the top level to the CEO and his teams and everybody. And there were some business challenges which were there. So
Hmm.
there, instead of straight away jumping into the business, into the
Hmm.
planning or the solutioning, we had to actually take a
Hmm.
step back and do a mapping of the business challenges. So we have
Hmm.
our own proprietary framework, and we use that framework to map the organization and figure out what are the top level challenges. And once they were identified, then we charted out a plan on how to overcome those challenges. So that was a very interesting case also, where without mapping the organization, one would not have been able to provide the solutions that we needed to provide. But there again, once that was done, they were very aligned, and then the whole process of participatory strategic planning was put into place, and then the action planning.
Yeah, I
And
love the way you put it, Arvind, because a lot of times we think it's all about executing and finding the problem and really going after the solution for it. But in business, sometimes you have to take two steps back to go four steps forward, right? So you need to first understand, is the direction clear to all or not? Are people aligned right from top bottom, even horizontally or not? And do they have the priorities which they are working in the same direction or not? And I think those are some of the things that I've realized are so important, rather than being obsessed about execution and moving in the dark, right? So agreed with you 100%.
absolutely, absolutely bang on. One needs to look at the mindset before you look at
Hmm.
the capability set or the process set.
Very well, very well. So Arvind, any parting notes, anything that you would like to share? What are your big initiatives that you're doing for 2024, that you've set for yourself or Cresco? Our audience would love to know.
I think 2024, or rather today, is the day and age of technology. So
Hmm.
we are going to help businesses adopt the technology, the right technology, to build their business. We are right now currently engaged with a microfinance company, and there itself
Hmm.
we are looking at, instead of going there, people going and picking up it. So we are talking about semi-urban and rural areas of the country, and even there, the penetration of technology is going to help that business greatly. So when so we are trying to help them as well on how technology-based approaches can help them. That is
Well,
one part.
that's the real wave of digital transformation to write, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I firmly believe that finance, distribution, large scale manufacturing, these are the areas which the country will do very well in. Of course,
Hmm.
services to export of services is anyways a big pillar for India. But I guess the growth in manufacturing, in finance, and in distribution, those are the areas which will be the pillars of growth in the country.
Absolutely, and no better time to do this. And the whole world is watching India right now and how we are progressing. So I think the right time, the right place, and the right service that you have, Arvind. So best of luck. Kudos to all the work, great work that you're doing. And I have seen it. I love the way you approach businesses, people, and kind of put the dots together. So yeah. So wish you the best. Thank you. Thanks for your time today. And if the audience wants to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to get to you, Arvind?
The best way to get to me is through my LinkedIn, Arvind Murwaha. The Murwaha spelling is Murwaha, and I promise that's the only person with that name and spelling on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Absolutely fine.
Thank you so much. Wishing you the best of, in the rest of 2023, and wishing you a very happy new year 24.
Thanks,
Bye for
Gaurav.
now.
Wish you thanks.